Good Friday afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. And this is going to take a few minutes to roll out, but I really think that the people who want to know and need to know will be comfortable with the extra few minutes. We're going to talk today for a few minutes about the East Polk County Association of Realtors and their ex-executive director, Jennifer Garula-Mers, M-E-R-S, Mers. Here's what's important to understand. This all started in about 2021, 2022, when a realtor by the name of R.J. Webb was elected the president of the association. And he began to notice things that were inappropriate. So as president of the association, at the board meetings, he challenged the executive director to see documents, to see financials, to see information. The executive director absolutely refused to show the president of the association the appropriate documents. Not only that, the board of directors backed up the executive director, Jennifer Mers, as opposed to their own president, R.J. Webb. They said he was just trying to cause trouble. It was abundantly evident that there was a problem. So this internal strife went on for a period of time, and R.J., who can provide more details for those in the association, finally personally brought lawsuit in order to stop this conduct and to stop what he believed to be the theft of funds. This is EPCAR's photograph of Jennifer Garula-Mers. She ultimately, during the process of the lawsuit, which by the way, they lost, was terminated from her job in August of 24. So this went on about 2 years before she was terminated. But we were also called in to do an investigation on September 16th of 24. There was more to it. So before we got into it to do this, we got into it to investigate David Stachowiak. He's 55 from Weeki Wachee. Now let me tell you about him. After RJ filed the lawsuit, and now this is still all civil, RJ and his father, who is a realtor, Webb's Real Estate, got a call from an Anthony. Hey, I'm Anthony from Chicago. Things are not going to end well if the lawsuit doesn't stop. You know, it needs to drop the lawsuit or it won't end well. So at that time, John and RJ, who by the way recorded the conversation, said, "Are you threatening us? Are you threatening us?" Hey, I've run the streets of Chicago. I can just tell you, this may not end well. So that was the end of the phone call. Our detectives, which are the total, absolute best, took that anonymous phone call allegedly from Anthony, threatening RJ and John Webb if they didn't drop their lawsuit, and did an investigation. Our detectives are so good that they found the phone. They found where the phone was sold in Orlando. They found that the phone in Orlando was sold to a Michael Smith. Michael Smith bought the phone for David. David had been hired by Jennifer to do some paving. So as a result of being able to put the investigation together, and there was a lot of investigation, we charged David with extortion, a felony 2. tampering with evidence, a felony 3, and use of a two-way communication, a felony 3. Those charges are pending for threatening the Webbs because of the remarkable work. The lawsuit goes on. Now we're involved in the investigation. Along the way, in July of 24, while our detectives are doing that investigation, we arrest Jennifer for the first time for resisting arrest. Now, this is EPCAR's picture of Jennifer, and this is what you look like after you've been investigated by the sheriff's office for a couple of years. So our detectives that work the fraud unit begin their investigation, and they determine in a criminal investigation what was also determined in a civil investigation, that there was more debauchery afoot. In fact, she was double paying herself. She was cutting checks direct, and she was doing direct deposit. We found where there were bonus payments to her. We found where there was credit card abuse. Now think about this for a second. While she's employed, she's using the credit card to buy personal grooming supplies, beauty products. This is why she's working, stealing their money. This is what she looks like after she can't buy any more grooming supplies and beauty products, and she's under investigation. So the investigation goes on. Our detectives working with the state attorney's office were able to obtain warrants for her arrest. She lived in Hernando County, where she was taken into custody on grand theft charges of more than $20,000, which is like an F2, as well as many other criminal charges. Here's what's interesting to understand. And I say this, East Polk County Association of Realtors Board of Directors at the time circled the wagon in her favor, as opposed to listening to R.J. Webb and looking at the obvious information. When you have an executive director that looks the board of directors in the eyes, looks the president in the eyes, and she works for them and refuses to produce documents, in our world, we call that a clue. But they still supported her and forced RJ and his father to go out on their own to sue in order to try to save EPCAR. The sad circumstances is EPCAR is really on the ropes right now. They're all but broke. In fact, they're in the process of maybe merging with another association so that they can continue on. East Polk County Association of Realtors has been in place for decades and decades and decades. There was no checks and balances by the board of directors. They took her job and her side, they took her side while she's doing her job. She very rarely came to the office. She was hired during the COVID years. There was no follow-ups. The bookkeeper just did what the executive director said. The executive director hired her on staff, so there was no one to say, whoa, there's a problem here. And I understand why they didn't, because when the new president comes in and says there's a problem here, the executive board of directors ignores him, chastises him, suggests he not only leave the presidency, but leave the association. But who was right here? Who tried to save the association here? And in the process, David, AKA Anthony, threatened them if they didn't drop the lawsuit. This is a made-for-television movie. It didn't have to be that way. Any association, whether you're Little League, T-ball, Any volunteer association has to have independent checks and balances. And EPCAR didn't have those in place, as they should have, and then ignored the person who tried to bring to their attention, we're being ripped off by our own executive director. The good news is most of that board has termed off, and the new interim CEO came to us and reported this criminal allegation that our fraud unit followed up on, and ultimately caused Jennifer to get arrested today. Jennifer is currently in the Hernando County Jail under no bond, and cases are proceeding against her, as well as her, what we believe to be co-conspirator, to try to stop the lawsuit and the action. Are there any questions?
Sheriff, when will she be, or him as well, I suppose, when will they be brought here to face charges?
David has already bonded out of jail because he was arrested some time ago. His charges are pending. If she does not post bond, she'll go to first appearance today. The judge can leave it at no bond and send her back to Polk County. He can allow her to post a bond and then report back to Polk County to stand trial. So we don't know whether she stays in jail under no bond, whether she's given a bond. If she can't make the bond, then she'll be extradited back to Polk County, where she'll sit in our jail. She needs to sit in jail. She's a thief. She's a con. She's a crook. Let me say that again for that board of directors that had their head up their butt and didn't do what was right. She's a crook, she's a thief, she's a con. And you allowed her to do it when you should have been looking out for the East Polk County Association of Board of Realtors, and you didn't. But thank goodness there are those people that are ethical and moral and won't give up. It would have been real easy for R.J. Webb and John Webb of Webb's Realty just to have walked away from it. But they wouldn't walk away from doing what was right. Okay, any other questions? Thank you all very much.